I need a tow car and I'm loath to buy a Land Rover, and Japanese options are far too expensive. So what do I buy? One of these, of course. When buying a tow car, I had a very specific criteria. It had to be sub £1,500 and have a 3.5 tonne towing capacity. Naturally, that didn't leave me many options. You can get a knackered old Disco 3 for about 1,500 quid. All of the Japanese stuff is far too expensive. So that leaves either a Mark 1 Touareg, a Q7 or a Cayenne. And being as the last three I've just mentioned are the same car, I went for the cheapest version. This is now my new to me Mark 1 Volkswagen Touareg in a very fetching blue. It is latitude spec, so it has the nice bumpers, looks a little less agricultural. It is fitted with the 3-litre V6 diesel. I previously had one of these, but with the V8 petrol, very thirsty. This will do 31, 32 on a run with no trailer. With trailer, about 24. Coming around the sides, it's on 19s, unlike my last one that was on 16s because that was off-road spec, but I need the sidewall for towing, well, the lack of sidewall I should say. Nice firm tyres. I have fitted brand new tyres, we'll come back to those very shortly. And the rest of it is pretty standard. It's got a black interior. These ones have got proper four-wheel drive, so they've got a locking centre diff and a low-range gearbox, so if I ever need to, I've got it. But yeah. Other than that, it tows 3.5 tonnes, seats 5 people very comfortably. The aircon is immaculate. Cruise, climate, all the fun stuff. And it cost me the grand total of £1,200. It's done the grand total of 125,000 miles and it's showing its age well. However, there's a few creature comforts that I'd like to make it into a better car. Namely, on the inside, we're going to fit some CarPlay because you just have to. And then on the exterior, we're going to fit some amber lights. So it's a bit more obvious when we're doing towing activities or rescuing people, which, you know, might happen. I'm going to put a fridge in it and a split charging system. So I've got a separate battery for charging phones, laptops, all that fun stuff when we're on the road and doing YouTube things. Before we get going, I'm going to do the sensible thing and fix one of the problems this car has. The engine management light is on and I've plugged in VAGCOM and had a little scan. We have a code for intake manifold runner bank 2, the limit not reached, which translates usually as being a diesel. They get clogged up and stuck or they break. Now conveniently, the previous owner Ed did give me a kit from Amazon, wherever, AliExpress, of the intake runners and gaskets in case we need them. But I've also got a code for an EGR flow, so I'm guessing it's just going to be gummed up and sticky. Usually it's on diesels, probably just needed a good run and a good clean out. So I'm going to whip that intake manifold off, have a look, see what we need to do, and if it's nothing, we'll put it back together and move on with life. I'm glad I had a look because I don't really actually need to do anything. It's not a big job just to remove this upper intake manifold. It's just, you know, a couple of bolts around each flange and then off the throttle body, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty clean as well in here. And then I actuated the flaps and they're working fine. I think it must have just been one of those, you know, codes that come up occasionally if a car doesn't get used. Being a diesel, they may have clogged up and got stuck slightly, but both banks move fine. I was provided this kit, you know, China's finest, so if it does go in the future, it's not a huge job to go any further than that, but for now I'm just going to put it back together and get on with life. You know, there's no point putting a part in if it's not needed. We'll put that on the shelf and carry on. Now, we all spend a lot of time on our phones, but what if we could be paid while doing so? Well, this week's video sponsor, TesterUp, does just that. TesterUp lets you earn money by testing apps in a few simple steps. First, sign up. Second, pick an app to test. And third, complete simple tasks like playing a game or answering surveys. And that's it. You don't have to pay anything. It's completely free. You can choose which game you want to play or which survey you want to answer. For example, I downloaded a game, played it for a few minutes and shared my feedback. And that's how I earned the money. The app is intuitive and everything is very straightforward. As a bonus, anybody that signs up through my link will get a £5 sign-up bonus to get started right away. TesterUp is completely free of charge and registration is quick and easy. When it comes to being paid, payouts are done within 24 hours in bank transfer and you can earn up to £80 per app test. TesterUp has a 4.2 out of 5-star rating on Trustpilot and has over 22 million registered users. The app constantly has new tasks and you'll probably find a game you're already playing, so why not earn money doing so? And to earn even more money, you can invite your friends to TesterUp and earn up to £7.50 per referral when they sign up too. Download TesterUp right now and start earning real money. If you're watching on TV or PC, scan the QR code which will be on screen now. If you're on your phone, use my link which will be in the description or the pinned comment. And don't forget, if you use my link or the QR code, you'll get a £5 sign-up bonus. Now, I'm going to find some games to finish and then get back to my Touareg, shall we? Now that I'm happy that the car is mechanically fine and it was just a check engine light just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and do some modifications. So from the front, we've got a CarPlay unit. It's now just the kind of standard one you get with everything, and then they just make a frame that goes around that. But at least I'll have Spotify, Google Maps, Waze, all that fun stuff for, I think it was sub 200 quid. And then at the back, we've got a lithium battery as a second battery. It's not huge, but it will do for things like a fridge, charging laptops, all those bits and bobs. And to charge it, we've got a Victron split charger, which I used to run in my Disco 2. It's very good. With lithium batteries, you have to run a DC-DC charger, because if you don't, your alternator will just die, because it's trying to charge the battery at all of the current all of the time, because lithium's different to flooded batteries, but you know, technicality we don't need to know about. But that, I've got associated wires, everything that I'll need for that to work. We need to find somewhere to put it. And then off Amazon, I've been shopping. I've got a load of these little, you know, hideaway, well, they're not hideaway, they're surface mount, but they're small and large. I'm going to try and get those in the grill somewhere, a bit discreet, you know, so they're not very obvious. And then around the back, another thing that I have, you know, has been from car to car with me. These are hideaways. So these are, well, clues in the title. They're hideaways. You put them in your tail lights, wherever they fit really. The police use them a lot for, you know, their blues, but these are obviously ambers, so we'll put those in the, I don't know, rear indicators or rear reverse lights, opposed to the front reverse lights. And then the other thing that's followed me around from car to car is these Whelan bars. So one of those in the windscreen, one in the back. You know, I'm not going to go with a ceiling, goodness me, roof mounted light, because you know, wind noise, it's too much. I want these just kind of left in and installed. And then I've got various, you know, splitters and all sorts, but it will all be hidden away and done properly, and it will look lovely. And then we'll put a couple of switches on the dashboard so we can turn it on and off. Shall we get going? Because there's going to be quite a lot. Generally, in the kit you get for your CarPlay comes a few things. You get cables and harnesses. There is also something I completely forgot to mention earlier. I've got some new indicators for the mirrors, so we'll do those, and some puddle lights. Forgot to mention those outside because I put them in a different box. But anyway, for my CarPlay, I have some harness adapters, a GPS antenna. I've got a camera over there because this one comes with a reversing camera. You can get them with so many options. But installation is generally the same from car to car. This is a kit of radio keys. They're always different for different cars, blah, 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 blah. But generally what you want to do is you find the radio key that fits, and then you unlock it and then pull the radio out. And because we've got a replacement panel, I'm going to pull the radio out, and then I think half of the vents and stuff, and they clip into the new one. We'll see. It's kind of a bit of discovery as they go ahead, you know, go along. They sometimes come with instructions. They generally come with one piece of paper that tells you what things do, and that's about it. There is apparently a product manual, but it's never, you know, specific to the car you're working on, because that unit is generic. So we'll do a bit of discovery as we fit this. Also, I'm going to remove this thing because it's a temporary solution, and this is not a temporary car. So that can come out, and we can have a nice permanent solution in the dashboard. Once you've worked out which keys you need, sometimes these kits come with them, but it's useful having the extra ones. The whole shebang will just come out like so. And then there's a few connectors on the back, depending on your make and model. So these have, this is a GPS head unit. So sat nav, so it'll have a GPS antenna, a radio antenna, and some power. Nothing too fancy. And then pull that out there. There we go. That's the old one free. Keep that for when we sell the car. And then we have a matter of, I think, Torx bits by the look of it, because this is still firmly screwed in. So we'll get that out, and then we've somehow got to graft this in. We're going to lose our storage cupboard up there, which I'm not too worried about because I never use it anyway. But yeah, these buttons are going to go in here, and my vents, and then we'll pop it back together, a few adapters. It's really, really easy, this. Once the stereo's out, it's a case of there's 4 Torx screws on whatever that is. Pull that out and then push up on the vents, and then the whole shebang comes out and will be put in the bin, apart from this bit, which is the vents, which I need to work out how they, oh, that's where that came from. when I was pulling it apart, I heard a big ping and wonder where that clip was. So that goes back on there. Fine. I don't think I broke anything. So I don't need the top bit, I just need, is that even screwed in, or is it just, I think it's just clipped in. I need to steal this bit. Although there is screw holes. I can see screw holes. I don't want to rip it off, because that would make a mess, wouldn't it? Oh, it's screwed in the front. Oh, it helps if you look, doesn't it? There's 2 Torx bits literally in there. Idiot. Idiot. Poppy those out. There, oh, look at that. That takes your cubby hole out. You can then store that, put the screws in it, because if we ever return this to standard, I would like to keep them. And then, what, is that just clipped in? I don't know how it comes apart. I don't want to break it. I'll work it out and come back to you. I have worked it out. You have to use a little bit of force and just pry the vents out of the back. Annoyingly, I could probably graft the 2 together to make that fit in that one, but never mind. This has also got illuminated vents, well, the controls for it, which we're not going to be able to see anymore, but, you know, never mind. We can't have everything. So, does that just go? There we go. There you go. That goes. And clips back in there, like nothing ever happened. They're good, these kits, aren't they? Considering how cheap they are. And then that whole situation can at least go back in there. There we go. And I will retain my aircon vents, but I have my little stereo. So that bit goes in the bin. Over there, and then it is a case of, they always come with these like CAN bus adapters as well, so that makes the life a lot easier. So we'll plug in that, and then we've got a adapter for the radio, you know, the FM. I'll put the GPS antenna up in here because it will work under the plastic, and then boff it all back together again, and we'll have some CarPlay. I've now screwed the screen into the bit of plastic. We've got our vents, got all our adapters plugged in, and then it's just a case of connecting it all back up. I also, you'll have seen on the time lapse, ran the 2 USB ports down under there. Tuaregs are very well made, so trying to get between the trim, so you can plug memory cards, you know, sticks, all that jazz in. So it is just then a case of plugging all your connectors in. You know, luckily because it's deckless, as in it has no CD player, it's quite narrow, so gone are the days where you'll probably be able to remember if you fitted an aftermarket stereo into an older car, you used to have to try and hide all the cables behind. But that is a thing of the past now, you don't have to do that anymore. So yeah, I'm going to plug all these in and then we'll give it a test. It's in loosely. As with anything, when you fit something, always test it before you put it fully back together, because if you don't, it's really annoying when you come back to test it. So I'm just going to slip it in like so. I've left the buttons out for now. Should be a case of, yep, radio comes on. So it's like an Android screen that you'd experienced before. It should have CarPlay. I hope it has CarPlay. That's any bit I want, really. Oh yeah, you can do car info. It's even got CAN bus information. Apparently my battery voltage is 5 volts. That's good, isn't it? But yeah, it's got the CAN bus. Steering controls work as well because you can't get to the volume buttons the way it's mounted. You know, for what I need, it's perfectly fine. And as if by magic, after it loaded, it always takes a moment for the first one, it works perfectly fine. They've updated CarPlay recently on the new iOS, which is very nice. But yeah, I've got my maps, I've got my fun stuff. I'm not going to load a map because you'll see where I am. That wouldn't be fun, would it? Yeah, I've got Spotify, I'm happy. It's a very nice, cheap upgrade into any car, and I recommend anybody that drives a car to have CarPlay. So yeah, I'm going to push through the connectors for the 4 buttons here, 5 buttons, whatever, plug those back in. I've put them in order up here. Also, be warned, if you unplug this one, which is the passenger airbag, it will trigger an airbag light. So I'll have to clear that as well. But that is that done. I've finally got my CarPlay in. The panel's not the best fitting thing, but you know, it's a replica thing, but as long as I can see the front parking sensors and, you know, it works. It's okay. I've put the mic here as well. I'm just going to route it and just leave it there just because Otherwise, I have to pull the trim apart, and the mics on these are crap anyway. You're better using the blooming speakerphone on your phone or some AirPods. But for the purpose I need it, we're good. Now, I'm going to try and find some space in the back for that battery, and we can start wiring some auxiliary bits and bobs. I have now had some lunch, and we are moving on. It was a bit noisy earlier because we were having a new 2-poster installed. I've now got a 2-poster in there, thank you to Equipment for Garages, but we will see that in upcoming videos. Anyway, off on a tangent. So, in the back of a Touareg is this space saver wheel, which happens to be quite deep, which is useful because that battery I've got lying around happens to fit quite nicely in the void underneath. And because it's lithium, it doesn't matter if it's the right way up, sideways, upside down, it does not care. So put it sideways like that. I'll probably turn it around so the terminal's the other way round. Pop wheel back over the top. Oh, that's heavy. Like so. And then there's plenty of air gap between, and the fixing bolt is here on the side. So perfect, it'll protect it. Obviously I'll protect the terminal so it doesn't short out, and it'll all be fused and lovely. And then I will grab my this guy, my charger. They're big old units, these, unfortunately, but I've also got this space here because what I think happens, correct me if I'm wrong, if you've got a V10 or something with air suspension, this bit of foam lives there, the air tank lives there, I think, but there's nothing there. So we'll delete that, and then our charging gubbins can go in this gap, and it's all, you know, enclosed. That metal's on metal, so the heatsink will work. Shut the thing, and nobody will know it's there. In a Touareg or a Cayenne or a Q7, I think, all of those, they put the battery under the seat because, well, I don't know, it was an appropriate place to put it. So we just whizzed the 4 bolts out, because it's always fun if you've got a dead battery and electric seats. You can't get, it's chicken and egg situation. It's like, how do you get to your battery with a dead battery? Yeah, so yeah, anyway. So that goes there like that, and then of course it's different on the back. Someone's changed that. That should be a torque bit. And just pop him forwards. Someone's replaced the bolt. That's not factory. Goodness me. Can you get the staff? Borderline. Love isn't, what even size is it? We don't even know, because someone's put a back, you know. Shouldn't be there. Should not be there. You still recording? Yeah. The people do not want to see me walking backwards and forwards to my toolbox, which I still haven't moved, because it's too far away. It is that size, whatever that size may be. Okay. Oh! Don't do this, people. That's an 8.8 grade bolt as a seat bolt. Don't do this, people. Whereas an original should be like 10.9. Here it is. Anyway, so you can then flop the seat backwards or forwards, and there is your battery under here. Hidden away under this box of fun. It's nice to see an actually intact one. My last one of these didn't have any of this at all. All the plastic was broken and everything. So that comes out there. Battery's there. I will get to that, and then we can connect up that to charge it in the boot. I'm going to have to run a wire from here to there. If you're following along at home, you will have realised that I made a fundamentalist mistake, and I've just remembered how these come apart. You don't have to take the seat off the top runner. You just undo the front 2 bolts and the whole thing pivots. I completely forgot. Never mind. It achieves the same goal. So yes, under here is your 12-volt battery. Oh, that looks fairly new, which is nice. And then what we're going to do, we're going to pick up 12 volts off the positive terminal or nearby. There's probably I think there's a like a distribution board in here, if I remember. It's been a while. Yes, there's a distribution board in here. So we'll steal it from here, and then we'll run our cable that way. On a V10, these have 2 batteries. I don't know where the second one is, probably under the driver's seat. So it's kind of wired to be able to have 2 batteries. We could put the split charger up here if we really wanted to, but it'll work at the back. There's been an explosion. Half the trim's apart now. I forgot how well built these things are. It's not like French stuff that I've been working on recently, or British stuff. They actually bolt their trimming properly. So I've taken the B, C-pillar off, the bit down the bottom. So we need to get a cable, which I've sourced out of my cupboard, which has a fuse on this end as close to the battery as possible, Also put a fuse on the other end, that way if this thing hits anything on the way through, it'll pop the fuse before it pops anything else. Yes, that is 100 amps, that's too much. I will find a smaller one. So that's going to connect there, and I'm just going to route the cable, and luckily you can go through this hole up here through the back of the plastic trim without having to attack anything down there, and pop out just there. And then, because in a car everything's grounded, metal-wise, we haven't got to run a second wire, the car is the ground, which makes that a little bit easier. It's very hard to record and do this, so I will show you where we're at now. So the front of it, like we said, is now, I've left some slack over there by the battery with the fuse on it, and then it comes at 45 degrees, boom, straight under the carpet. It's a flat floor, so straight, and then it comes up the kind of edge of the sill, and then it'll go straight up. Now, obviously, one thing to note when doing stuff like this, modern cars have airbags everywhere. Don't go running cables across airbags because they don't work anymore. So just be careful. You know, if you can follow original wire runs of cars, so up the sills, you know, A pillars, B pillars, where you can, to try and avoid bad things happening. But having done this many, many, many times in many 4x4s, you know what you can get away with. So this is my wire. This is my feed from the battery, which is obviously charged by the alternator. And this clever box will basically steal some of that power, but not all of it, to charge my second battery. I will trim this to put it in the hole, put some nice termination on it, get some grounds going for this as well, and then it just needs another small wire, again, to the small battery. Easy peasy, done. I'm going to put the trim back together because it's all in lots of pieces, and then reconvene in here. I'm going to put an extra fuse box in so we can feed stuff, whatever we want to charge. And then that's that pretty much done. It's a very simple process. The long bit's just pulling trim apart, trying to get wires to where you want them. I'm trying to reacquaint myself with how I wired this up last time, but I think I'm there. So I've passed that wire through the back of the trim here, so now it arrives here. It's obviously a little bit too long, so I shall lop off the bit I don't need. We're not going crazy. So that is that. And then we can just strip the wire here. And this is complete overkill for what I need, but it's what I had lying around. I did some Googling, mathematics, fun stuff. Apparently you need 4mm cross-section cable for that run. This is way bigger than 4, so it's fine. So on the input, and then this is an isolated DC-DC charger, which means that, well, it's isolated. So the second battery you can have completely independent, but I don't want that. I want them together so I can still use the chassis as my ground. So I have 2 ground cables, of which will go in both negatives, and both those will be just joined together and put on a stud, which I will find in a minute. And then the last output, the power, will go to my second battery, which will also be grounded with an additional ground onto a ground stud somewhere in the boot. So I'm going to connect all that, and then I'll show you how it works. After all that fun, I've got most of it wired in. So incoming my power into my battery charger, DC-DC, whatever you call it, in and out. Out coming to a fuse on the battery that I want to charge. I've gone for a different version with posts. Then the other side is grounded, and it comes to a thing called a shunt, which I had lying around in the cupboard. I was like, oh, we'll wire that in as well. So that tells us how much current flow is going in and out of this battery, and if it's dead or not, which is always useful to know for lithium. And then on the underside in here, I've just got a fuse box that kind of joins it all together. Now, because these are Victrons, you can see the fun stuff on your phone. So let's push record, and then we can see this currently is on 12 volts because it's just reading the battery of the car. And then also the shunt it's showing no amps because, funnily enough, we're not pulling any power. So we're at 0. So what should happen, when I start the car, that should do some magic trickery and should charge this battery, but without straining the hell out of the alternator. If I've done it right, we'll see. And as if by magic, there we go. It's now detected that we're at 13.8 volts, and it will then go, okay, yes, we're charging, and then we'll start, you know, putting power through to this battery. And then obviously when you turn the engine off, it does the same in reverse, and then it isolates the two systems, so you can drain this completely and not drain your starter battery, you know, while you've left your fridge or your lights on or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to tuck it all away, put the space saver back in, and then we can get to putting some nice lights on and other bits and bobs. Much time later, I've managed to get the spare wheel back in with its fixing, so the battery now lives just there. I've used the really strong click lock Velcro because lithium batteries don't weigh a lot, and it's also retained in there so it can't go anywhere. The positive cables have got covers over them and they're fused, so if anything was to happen, it'll pop fuses and be perfectly safe. I will tidy up the Victron stuff that's currently there, but I still need to wire in feed for my fridge, lights, whatever extra, so there's no point reattaching it until I've done that. So we're going to move on to the lights, get those fitted, and then everything that needs power can be done in one go. So we're going to go around the front. Removing the grille was a bit of a palaver, but on this, pop the badge out and then there's one screw and then the whole thing should just unclip, but all the clips were seized and horrible. Anywho, so my plan is, I've got these little fellas, these flashy flashes. I'm hoping I can fit them somewhere that it's not very obvious that they're there. The whole idea. So I took them like so, yeah. I think if I took them up and out the way and then kind of something like so. I mean, yeah, you know they're there, but it's not, you know, it's not blatantly obvious. It's either that or you kind of put them behind the grill, like proper behind, but then they struggle to flash through. I might actually put a pair wider. Oh, I can't actually, my grill's got a massive hole in it. That's that plan out the window. No, they can go in the grill. One thing I also want to do, which I quite like to do, because I'm a bit of a child, is, I think over here, in one of my many boxes, whoa, yes, I bought a while ago these, which are amber marker lights, and if you know, in America, wide boy cars have to have amber marker lights. And on my disco I had 3 spaced equal, well, did I have 4? I think I had 4 spaced equally across, and it looked quite cool. So I might do that on this as well, just because, why not? I've got changed, it's a new day. Going to pick up where we were. The lights are in the dash, and if I remember, yes I did, I ran a few bits of wire just to test it. So what I need to do now is I need to get these wires into the cabin, not through the door seal, because I've seen people do that, that's just horrible. You need to find a little grommet somewhere in the bulkhead so I can get wires into the cabin, and then I'm going to put some switches in, so like basically one switch is going to just do all the amber lights in one go. So yeah, I'm going to have a look. There'll be grommets around and we'll have a look, try and poke something through, and then run these. I have taken the scuttle off the top of here, so just pop the wipers off and the panel. Gave it a little clean out because it looks like some mice or something have been in there, and there's a load of detritus and whatnot. There's still loads of it here as well, but I'm going that way. So I've extended my wires with some nice waterproof crimps there. So my plan is to come around the edge of here, which I will, cable tie and clip across here, and then conveniently about there in front of where the driver's feet are, there's a rubber grommet, but it has a spare hole. I can't really show you because you can feel it, but you can't see it. What you find is with a lot of cars is that, they would have had extra options, so they generally have blanks for where the wiring passes through. So I'm going to snip the little teat, or whatever you want to call it, off the blank, and then that means I can pop my wires through, and there's no risk of it rubbing, and it still retains all its waterproofness and all that fun stuff for the whole purpose the grommet's there. You shouldn't really go drilling holes through your bulkhead because you're letting water and dirt and all that fun stuff in. So yeah, I'll get this routed and then we can carry on in the inside when we've got these wires. In the hole down here, there is this kind of cap over the, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like the rubber's extruded and then sealed off. So that's all I've just snipped off with a pair of snips. So then it means that the wire that I've got here, it's plenty big enough a hole to slide these through, because that's, it's only diddy. So they will thread through. And then it is then a case of fishing them out the other side, which is always fun. You can get those, like those fiberglass rods that you use in houses to pass cables through. There's many ways. In more modern cars, it's a lot harder because it's more sealed. But in older cars, it's really easy because you just drill a hole and then goop it with a bit of silicone or something. But yeah, newer cars make it a bit harder. So yes, we'll do this and then I'll retrieve it. Now it's fished through, you can see my black and red is here, and then it is just a case of pulling the slack through. Obviously it's far too long. You know, guide it on this end, as I was saying, or I can't remember what I was saying, if you're doing it through the scuttle, be careful of wiper motors and such, because you'll just get it stuck around your wiper motor and then it will just make a bird's nest and be horrible. So I will be cable tying it to the harness that is there, so it keeps it out of the way. And now this is my power supply to my front lights. I'm going to have to fit my rear ones, and then we'll join it all together here, along with those light bars that we introduced earlier, because then, as I said, literally one switch, boom, everything will come on. And it'll all be fed from that slave battery, so I can leave them on, you know, indefinitely, and it doesn't matter. It won't flatten the battery of the car. You join me at the rear now, where we're going to put in, these are the hideaways. They're like proper fancy ones that police use them and everything, in blue. Obviously these are in amber. You'll notice that it's a little bit melted. Don't do what I did and put it so close to a light that it melts the bit of plastic, but it doesn't impede it working. This is I've had these in like, I don't know, 4 or 5 cars, so I just take them out every time I sell the car, because they're not cheap. They were like 60 or 70 quid. So I've taken my light out, you know, 2 screws, taken the back off, and trying to work out a place that's in free space, which I'm hoping down here, somewhere in this bottom light, this is free space, so I can just pop it in there and it will kind of share the reverse light. You could put it in the red bit, but I think that would, well, it would be red, not amber. So I want it in the clear bit. And ideally, you know, you could put it in this clear bit here or something, but then you've got to run the wire down here, and, you know, you've got to hide it and you've got to get through there, and, you know, trying to make this a little bit of an easier job for myself. But I can see from the, you know, from the shape like that, if I go about there, it should pop out in the clear space. So I've got myself a step drill bit, Christmas tree built, and, you know, just, I'm going to go probably there. Obviously, if you're doing this yourself, be a little more hasty, because what I have noticed is I've now got a bit of plastic detritus in my lens that I can't get out. So I may have to do some blowing and vacuuming. It might annoy me. I might just get some second-hand lights, but that was the, you know, how you do it. And I've had to relief cut the bit of plastic that lives. It's just a bit of, you know, it's just the bumper support. It's nothing, you know, nothing important. But so now, yes, that will now pop back in there, and then, as you see, it's called a hideaway because you don't see it. And then the wire will be routed into here. We'll vacuum all that crap up. Yeah, I'm going to clean that bit of plastic out of there because it'll annoy me. And then a rinse and repeat for that side, and we'll join those two together, and then there's going to be lots of marrying of wires in the back and the front, and then flashy flashy. After much crimping, I have extended the one from that side. I've just popped them back in. The wire's obviously here. This is the little control box, but I've put new shrink crimps, goodness me, on each of the wires, so that's extended. I will tuck that obviously under here so you won't see any of it, hence the whole hideaway thing. And I've just got a battery on the floor here where I can test it. And there we go. And then you can kind of cycle through the modes until you find one that you like. And that's the back end done. So now I need to attach my front ones to my back ones, and then we'll have lots of flashing and wonderfulness. This is where it all comes together. So I've got myself a relay. That is, for people that don't know, a way of switching a high current with a low current. So in the front will be a very small toggle switch that will turn on basically all of the amber lights in one go, of which I will also have the 2 like 12-volt outlet cigarette lighter adapters for the stick-on lights. So it all come together. So obviously there's more than that switch can cope with. So we use a thing called a relay, which has the bigger spade connectors on here to switch that, basically. So I need to run a few wires forwards and backwards. I need to get the power for these lights obviously onto this relay, and then the ones we wide in the front onto this relay, and then, yeah, as I said, 2 12-volt outlets. So we can, it all kind of comes together. So I'm going to run probably 4 pairs of wire up the headlining. So I've just got spares as and when I need to, you know, if I need to add or remove anything, it's just there. It's just easier to run a few extra wires. So I'm going to do that and then connect it all together, and then hopefully pop one switch, and, you know, simple as that, we've got lights. And then because it's run off this fuse box that we installed earlier in there, it's all self-contained, won't flatten the car battery. Happy, happy. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, let's do that first. We covered this briefly when I was installing the dash cam in my mother's car, but I will say it again because it's a kind of important safety thing when you're running wires up and down A pillars, B pillars, whatever. There's a curtain airbag here. You can see it. You don't want to put your cables across it. So if you're coming from inside to outside, that cable's now across the airbag. So obviously when the airbag deploys, it will probably rip the cable and would be fine, but you know, you don't want to hinder the working of the airbag. So you want to go behind it or in the designated cable track. So there is cables that go up and down these. So like kind of stick to that and cable tie it to it, because then that way it's not going to be a problem in a crash, because I'd hate for that to be an issue. But yes, the reason I'm in here is because I'm just running the cable for that window mounted one, because it was easier, and then I've got all the cables in one place and then we can just plug them all in. But yes, important safety note. I should probably explain what is going on now some time has passed. Well, merely seconds for you. So, routed from the front that's the 12 volt outlet for the front windscreen mounted lights. The other one is on the floor there still, so they will come together into a 12 volt outlet, which is switched by this relay. Now this relay will be powered from our battery that we installed, but then I've also run to the front 4 wires of different colours. The colours are kind of irrelevant, I just had 4 different colours. The black and the red are the lights that we put in the grille, so they will come back here as well. And then the yellow and purple are my switch wires for my relay. So on a relay you have a small little coil that is powered, which takes very little current, which then powers your 2 thicker wires, which will be all the load. So 2 spade connectors on there, connects my wires for my switch. The other side is just grounded, so that will get grounded onto there, and then I can control this relay from the front, which will then turn all my loads on in one go. Happy days. So yeah, I'm going to connect all these bits and bobs and demonstrate it working. I would have time-lapsed what was going on, however, it's not very interesting. I was just running a lot of wires. So now it's all connected. These wires go to the front, my switch is in, I've got the front lights connected, I've got the rear lights connected, so when I put the switch on, it all comes on. And I'm going to button this all up and then you can see it all. I've also put in an inverter in here because I had one lying around, so that is powered off the this fuse box, which is powered off this battery that we know, but it goes through that protector, so we can't flatten the battery anyway. So that's always useful to have, you know, if you ever need to plug stuff in. And then also this extra 12 volt outlet here is for my fridge. So I can have cold beer in my boot too. I'm going to chuck this back together and then we can move on. Now that the trim's back together, it's time to fit some Chinesium. Under here are some puddle lights, which pop out one side or the other with a screwdriver. I should just be able to give them a little pop with a bit of trim fork, or not. Let me get a different tool. Let's go for that. Do a good demonstration, aren't we? There you go. And out it comes, little LED. No, it's not an LED, it's a fluorescent or a tungsten, whatever you want to call it. Normal bulb. But I have got myself these delightful things. Am I going to need the adapter? I might not need the, am I going to need the adapter? I'm going to need the adapter. These are little projector doohickeys with the Audi logo on. I'm excited. So they should just push into the old connector. Oh, look at that. That's dangerously close to shorting out. Let's bend those over like that. Look at that. We have the Volkswagen logo, but all the Chinesium. Some people are going to love these, some people are going to hate them, but I saw them on AliExpress for like £1, I think it was. So I thought, why the hell not? I might put a bit of heat shrink around those because those are dangerously close to touching each other. But I'm just for demonstration purposes, let's just pop it back in and see what it looks like. There you go. You'll get the full effect at night time, but yeah, VW logo. So I'm happy now. I like a bit of Chinese in sometimes. One of the last bits I needed to do were the, whatever you want to call them, the side repeaters are all cracked and mashed up and horrible. So I've just spent 5 minutes trying to work out how to take this thing apart. I've worked it out. You take the screws out, then this bit unclips under the bottom, and I have gone for these delightfully fetching sequential tinted Chinesium replacements. I think they were about £5, just because. Why not? So they will look a bit better. I mean, they're probably not the nicest thing in the world, are they? But it will do the job. So I think it is just a case of unscrewing this out of here. I'm not too sure, really. I'm just kind of Oh, there you go. That comes out there. Goes in the bin, and then your new one somehow, that's it, like that, clips in and looks a bit better. Only because ones from BMW, Volkswagen rather, were hilariously expensive for what they were. So that's why I've just gone for just a generic replacement. I think they're sequential as well, which Edwin will hate, I'm sorry. But, you know, it'll do. It's a dark car, so another bit of black, it's all right. I'm going to try and work out how this goes back together now. I think this threads up through here. It kind of just came apart in my hand, and I can't remember how I got to that point. But such is. Yeah, I'll put this back together and see what it looks like. In fact, I can do it now. Hang on, let me plug this in. Hold the line. Are you ready? Look at that. That's something else, that is. It's all right, isn't it? It's better than the cracked horribleness. We'll live with it for now. I think they were like £4 or £5. So anyway, it's better than the cracked horrible ones. So yeah, put this back together and we'll go outside and have a look what all of our work has achieved. And with that, I have completed my challenge of making my tow rig, although this is the front half of my tow rig. We will get to my trailer in another video. I was going to do it at the end of this video, but it's just going to be too long. So I've got new brakes, new lock for the hitch. I'm going to need to shim the hitch because it's all, you know, vibrating, or new brakes, new stub axle. It's a whole video in itself. So that will be coming very soon. But back to this. We've got the flashing lights on the front, in the windscreen. We've got our new delightful Chinese mirror lights, and then the same round the back. We've got the hideaways, and then up top, which needs a little bit of adjustment, we've got another one of those light sticks. I need to angle it down a touch, but it's discreet from the back, it's not too obvious. And when you're towing, the trailer's going to be in the way anyway. So as something that, you know, for being in the way, if something's broken down, at least it's kind of visible enough and it's discreet enough that none of the wiring is showing. One thing I didn't talk about, which I was going to, were the tyres were in dire need of changing. So I fitted a brand new set of, I think they're General Grabber, kind of all-terrain, nothing too off-roady, because when you're towing, if you have off-roady tyres, they're horrible because the tread blocks kind of shuffle around and it's just not a very nice towing experience. So something slightly more aggressive than a road tyre, but pretty much a road tyre. They've got really good reviews online, and weirdly, trying to find this size are quite hard or hilariously expensive. So this is kind of like a compromise. It was about 500 quid for a set. So yes, all new, brand new tyres, fitted on my new tyre machine, which was very nice. There will be a video, you'll have seen a video of that actually, that will have already come out, because we are very far in the future currently. But yes, and the last thing, CarPlay is all fitted and lovely. So it means I can drive, charge my phone, use my sat nav, be comfortable, put my beers in my fridge, which is also plugged in. Obviously don't drink and drive, but I can have beers in my fridge, or colas, or whatever. So that's all sorted. But for now, we are done. Yes! If you would like to see the previous video, it will be somewhere up here. And if you haven't subscribed already, it'll be up here. But for now, I will see you next time. Goodbye.